Scare me. Oh, whoa, and sneaking around the corner.
My husband loves to do that. Loves. The way our house is built, you can walk through our kitchen, dining room, living room, and back in the kitchen. So it's a big circle. I even use that as a, exercise area. But he could do that and get behind me, and I just whoop and holler and punch him out, and oh.
SBDC, this is Paula McCain. I am well. How are you? Good. Lori is out of the office yesterday and today. She's in Huntsville taking care of her mom, but she is on her cell phone though. Okay, thank you. Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
When we do a survey for you guys,
Uh-huh.
do you know who sent it back?
No. Um, in the one that I'm sending out today, I'm putting a block that says, please share your email address. And
Yeah, because I do them, but I don't know that there's any way that I can sort of cross it off and let you know I did it, you know?
yeah, other than just send me a quick email or anything like that,
Would that be helpful? Is that what you'd like?
you don't
Because I-
have to.
Not really?
Yeah, you don't have to.
Okay.
As long as you
Does-
complete
does- You
it.
get them back, I mean, from apparently the whole group?
What I get, I go through SurveyMonkey, and SurveyMonkey actually collects the responses, and I can go in and see the responses,
Okay,
an aggregate of the responses.
okay. Because sometimes I get a blanket email saying, you know, please do your survey, and I've already done it, and that's what made me think, they don't know which of us has accomplished that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go into, if you try to do the survey again, it'll come back and say you've already taken it.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Lorna. Can't hear you.
There we go. Hi,
I hear you now. I hear you now.
how are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
Good, good. Little rushed. I had a 3-hour program this afternoon.
Wow.
And then the director wanted to stay on and talk for a little while, which I didn't mind, but it's like, I gotta get ready for the next one. I try not to do that to myself, but every now and then, to accommodate schedules, do what you gotta do.
Yeah, then when they want to chat,
Yeah. Everything going well?
it is. It's going pretty well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we're busy.
Well, good. Busy's good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah. Let's see if I can change my background.
I look like I moved over this way too far. Wait, that way or that way? That way. Hey. There. Now it's centered, I think. Yeah. Light looks a little low. Does my light look low?
A little bit, yeah.
Give myself a little more brightness here. Better?
Yeah, I can tell a difference. There's still kind of a shadow to your left, or darker to your left. Yeah, that's better.
Okay. You blurred yours out, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
You're outside. Are you outside?
Uh, if only. No, in the office, in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Thursday at least.
I know. I'm planning on taking tomorrow off.
There you go. If you've got back-to-back webinars, you should take the day off.
It's been a big week, so yeah. This other one was a really big, complicated program, so
Oh,
yeah. Plus, I decided at the last minute that I wanted to make an ebook for this class.
oh.
So I've got a link for you. We could put that in the chat already, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Let's see that. Let me find that link. There it is. Okay, so where's the chat button?
Is it at the bottom? Check at the bottom right.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can cut and paste this in and save you from having to do that at the last minute. Of course, we'll probably want to put them back. Oh, you can't paste. You can't paste? What? You can't paste in chat?
Really?
I can't. Why?
I guess I've never tried.
Well, I declare that's just hardly fair now. It should work. Oh, come on. Nope, I have to type it. Making me work so hard. Let's see. HTTP slash.
Actually, just tried it, and if you try Control C and Control V, it should work.
Control V.
Control
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Nosa.
Yes, thank you so much.
Because I just typed something random and there we go.
And it worked. Okay, I'm gonna go try.
I see it. Yeah, I
Now
see it.
now that I typed everything in, I'm gonna go try pasting it and see if that works. So Control V. What a trick. Thank you.
Nosa is the newest member of our team.
Oh. And look at you, you've made yourself worthwhile already.
Absolutely.
Girl, I value you so much. Oh. Hi, I'm Lorna. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
No, so did you get through all of your stuff at NCTC this morning?
I did, yes, I did. So that went well. So I'm
Yeah.
officially official on that end. Got all this juicy stuff to read through.
Yeah, another fire hose.
Can't be good for my floor.
Okay, we have a few more minutes. Has that 2 o'clock slump hit? Everybody's so quiet.
I know. We're afraid. Okay. For me, it's 3 o'clock.
Oh, goodness. That's right.
Yeah,
But you're in Florida.
I am. And the sun is
So
shining.
you have that going for you. For
True.
sure.
But I don't think you guys have it too bad, do you?
We're not that close to the ocean.
Uh, get pretty hot in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
But we do get the humidity, like we were close to the ocean, so there's that.
you're so lucky.
Oh,
So, are you close to Dallas?
yeah, we're about 20, 25 miles from Dallas, north of Dallas. That's where Denton is.
Okay. I went to Waco for the last SBDC thing that they did there.
Uh-huh.
That was an experience.
Yeah. Waco is, well, it's Baylor, kind of like Denton is UNT,
Okay.
but going through the same growth of being a college town, I guess.
Yeah. 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 Well, Baylor just what they win. They won something big. Basketball
The
Uh,
let's see, the March Madness.
right. They were really big in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they won. They were in the final.
Oh yeah.
I think they won. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. We have that going for us.
I like it.
Okay. Well, it's 2 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to be conscious of everyone's time. My name is Paula McCain. I'm a recovery business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. And I don't know if you all realized it, but today is International No Diet Day. I am definitely going to celebrate today. So, the SBDC is the leading provider of assistance for small businesses, and we are grant funded. And because of that, we can offer our services to you at no cost. Today's webinar is titled Writing Effective Business Messages and is presented by Lorna Kibbe. A little housekeeping, go ahead and if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat room and we'll get to them. Lorna is quite interactive, so we'll be using that chat room a lot, I bet. Lorna is an ASBDC conference speaker. That's where we found her. Enjoyed her webinar there at the conference last year. She has 10 years of experience working with SBDC Florida Gulf Coast University. She is a leadership expert. We can vouch for that. Thank you, Lorna. Take it away.
Thank you, Paula. And you know, an important part of leadership is being able to write effective messages. I love teaching business writing. It's so weird. I never thought that I would enjoy teaching writing. Believe me, my 7th grade teacher probably is still like in shock if she knows this is happening, because it was nothing but confusing. I mean, the stuff that person had to tell me was like, what? Diagram a sentence? That's so insane. So the good news is, from all of that, I've learned how to make it simple. You know, I've learned how to make messages simple, effective, to the point, get what you need. You know, really, if you understand how to write properly, it saves you a ton of time, because people don't have to start sending you messages asking you what you meant or trying to clarify questions that you should have already answered, or not read your messages at all because they're just so doggone long and confusing that I just can't handle it. Have you ever seen messages like that? I have this one friend who used to write messages. She also worked for me, but I consider her a friend above all. But she wrote the worst message. I mean, I would open up the screen and look at this email message from her, and I would just close it. I couldn't do it. The only way that I could get through her message, this is a true story, I'm not kidding, I would have to print it and take a highlighter pen with me, and I would have to go through the message to find out what she was trying to tell me. It was awful. You know, that's so frustrating. And probably I missed a lot of what she was trying to tell me, and I didn't always read everything because it was just so much. We don't see too many extreme examples of that now. I think people are getting smarter about it, but maybe you know someone like that. The truth is, whether it's email or whatever form of writing you're doing, usually we just write too much stuff. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks today for writing effective messages, writing effective reports, writing effective whatever you're writing, to help you make sure that your reader understands what you're trying to tell them. And here's a big one, that they understand whatever action you're trying to get here, because so many times we're vague. You know, we don't tell them exactly what we need, and we wonder why they don't get it. So we're gonna work on that as well. I was so excited about this topic that I was like, man, I'll never be able to do this in an hour and a half. So I wrote you a book. I've already put the link in chat, so you can go and get that link and get the ebook. It's 100 business writing tips, some of which I'll cover today, but I might not make it through all 100. And that's okay, because you now have access to that ebook. So go ahead and grab that ebook. You can click on that link that's in chat and grab that for yourself. Let me share my screen and let's talk about this. The one thing that's interesting about this, I know that in previous sessions, we've had some people who are not necessarily on the call with us. They can't see the screen. For those of you that can't see the screen, that's a disadvantage. I won't kid you, for business writing, because I really want to show you some before and after samples. But knowing that, I've tried to limit it, and I'm going to read out loud anything that I think that you should hear that maybe you can't see on your screen. So I'll try to make it great for you. Please feel free to use the chat. I love it when you chat with me. But you guys, Debbie, you might have to tell me if something comes up, because it's hard for me to watch the chat at the same time and you know, manage everything. So if you see something that I need to know, a question, whatever, feel free to interrupt. Or if anybody has a question, you know, let's try to make this fun and not just a lecture, you know. So talk to me anytime. Okay. So first, I want you to know that the world of business writing has changed. It's true. Things are not like they used to be. We're making some allowances for things that we never did before. And here's why. Because business writing now is a lot more conversational than formal. I think that's come about because we're understanding that we need to have conversations with people and make our messages clear, more than, you know, experience that formality that we used to worry about. So we're seeing some ease in some of the rules that my 7th grade teacher thought I should know. But that doesn't mean that we should be too casual with it, because it's not casual. And a lot of what I talk about will be email, because we use email so much, but it really applies to all kinds of writing. And I'll try to point that out as I go. So the first thing is shorter is better, hands down. The shorter you can make your message, the shorter you can make your document, the better. You know what it is to have to sit down and try to read one of these awful reports. Like I got one yesterday, it was 37 pages. What do you think I did with it? Yeah, it looks really pretty over there on my desk. One of these days I'll try to read it, but in the meantime, I kind of flip through it, you know? So anything you can do to make your documents shorter, but you still have to make sure that they're understood. Like I said, formal is out. We're not all about the formal anymore. We're more conversational, which gives us permission to do some things like with grammar that we thought we shouldn't do. Like contractions are considered good now. You should use contractions because it makes your document shorter. So anything that you can do to make it more conversational, it's like we're talking to each other instead of, just writing some formal document. We don't have time for that. I think that's really what email did for us, was it made us realize that we can't sit here and have a formal document every time we write an email. So for the most part, we're way past that. Visuals are very important. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you've been on any of the other series on communication, you already know what I'm talking about, so you got a heads up. But visuals are very important in writing. Flash, not in vogue. Visuals are important, but flash is not good. So visuals, bullet points, charts, pictures, diagrams, bold text where it's appropriate, headings, those kind of visuals, because what we're trying to do is make it easy for our reader to find what they need. So like that 37-page report, when I'm flipping, make it stand out. If it's something I need to see, help me to find it really fast. That's what it's about. But this stuff about using all kinds of cool fonts and all kinds of flashing backgrounds, none of those work in business, Please don't do that. Don't use any of those templates and all that stuff in your email. A few months ago, I got an email from someone who had used one of those templates, and it was from a professional customer. And I looked at it and said, you know what? This is really one of the coolest backgrounds I've ever seen. I may have to take this back because this is awesome. It looked like a piece of notebook paper with a spiral on it. It was spiral down. It was really cool. It looked awesome. I'm like, man, this is neat. I'm going to print this because I want to show this to somebody. I'm going to use this as an example. I printed it. And guess what happened when I printed it? Everywhere where that spiral was overlapped the words. So I could not read the first word of every sentence or of every line. I couldn't read the first word. And I was like, that's what you get for thinking you could have possibly been wrong about this. There's no good template. Yeah. So don't go for those flashy things. They take up a lot of time and it's not needed. It's not even nice in business writing anymore. Grammar rules. So much has changed with that. I mean, it's one of the big things is a serial comma. And people laugh at me for this, but it's like when you have a series of items, you have to use a serial comma, which means a comma in the last place before the last item to make it clear. There's a lot of lawsuits about this because there can be misunderstandings. So I'll try to give you a really simple example of what I'm talking about. Let's say that I write to you that I want you to make cakes. Red velvet, chocolate, and vanilla. Okay. Do I want 2 cakes or 3 cakes? If there's no comma after chocolate, which would be the serial comma, I want you to make cakes. Red velvet, chocolate, comma, and vanilla, that's 3 cakes. But if I don't put a comma, if I don't put that serial comma, I want you to make cakes. Red velvet, chocolate, and vanilla. That's a marble cake. Okay, you want 2 cakes. Or do you want 3 cakes? Or do you want 2? I don't know. So that's the power of the serial comma. I know for a lot of time we always used to tell people, you're using too many commas, but that serial comma is really important. Like I said, Google it. There's a lot of lawsuits about that where people are misunderstanding just because of where that comma placement is. So that's one thing. The serial comma is back in style. Oh, and it's okay to put prepositions at the end of sentences now. I mean, go ahead. What are you afraid of? It's considered okay. Oh, how about this underlining? We like to underline like that essential there. I have that underline, but that's really not correct in business writing anymore. You don't want to use underlining to emphasize text because when you think about it, an underline now is a hyperlink. And many times when people see that underlining, they're clicking on it, trying to go somewhere else, and it doesn't go anywhere, especially in documents that aren't on the screen, where there's no differentiation in color, and you think that means that you should go find that website or go find a link, and it's not there. So underlining, we're being advised, leave the underlining off, don't use that for emphasis anymore. Let's see, what else? Oh, here's an oldie but a goodie, but I still have people who argue with me on this. When I was in 7th grade, okay, this was high school, I had to take this course called typing. Yeah, we used to have to do that. They taught us that anytime you're doing a document, there should be 2 spaces between every sentence. But that's like long gone. That's like retired. Forget it. You just need 1 space. So those of you who still have that habit of putting 2 spaces between every sentence, you can lose that. You know why we had to do that in the first place is kind of funny, because we used to use these antique devices called typewriters. Don't know if you've ever seen one, but these typewriters, they had a ribbon, and they had these strikers, these keys that would strike the ribbon to make a letter, see? And the thing is, because they were ink, and if you had a really fancy one, the top half of your ribbon was black, and the bottom half was red. That was a really fancy one. But the ink would smear, especially between sentences. And so people had trouble reading documents because they couldn't tell where the sentence ended. So the answer was to put 2 spaces, and that became a standard, but that's over. So all kinds of things with grammar have changed. We're not as strict with grammar as we once were, which is good news. But then again, if you make a bad grammatical error, which I'll show you a couple of them, that's not good. So you have to be conscious of grammar, but some things have changed. There's more allowances. And if you can see the screen, it says BTW, TXT lingo, no good, IRL.LOL. And that means, by the way, text lingo is no good in real life, laugh out loud. What I'm telling you there is, we have this great text language that we use sometimes. We shorten things, especially in text, which makes sense because, but we should never use those in actual business documents. There's still a lot of debate about whether text is even a good way to communicate, especially if you work in a government organization. A lot of government organizations don't want their employees to use text because, think about it, everything's public record, and that there's no recording of text sometimes. It's a whole issue maybe some of you are familiar with. But yeah, be careful with the text lingo. That's for text only and not really to be used in your documents at all. So when you think about, writing, I'd be interested in knowing what kind of challenges really just drive you crazy. When you have to deal with written documents, like what kind of things do you see that drive you crazy? Would y'all put some stuff in the chat for me so I can see what you're thinking on that? And I'm gonna pull up my chat box here. Let's see. I don't see the link. You don't see the link? You see the link? I might have to get some help with the link. Paula, do you see the link? Someone wrote that they don't see the link, so you can help me out with that. All right, let me. Yeah.
I used Nosa's suggestion and retyped it, and he got it.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, appreciate that. All right, so aggravating challenges. What aggravates you? I've told you a couple of mine. Documents that are just way too long, right? Or this 37-page report that doesn't tell me how to find things. Okay, what have I got here? Duplicated words. Oh, use of words that don't exist. Oh boy. See, that's a really good point. Some people would think that was a real word, but if you know it's not, it's so aggravating. So yeah, you gotta be careful with that kind of stuff. This is not a license just to forget all your grammar and spelling rules. No way. Duplicate words. You know what else gets to me? Is that from Ruth Ann? It's redundant words, like serious crisis. I mean, what's the definition of a crisis? A crisis is serious by definition. So, those kind of things bother me too. Different font settings in the same document. I can spot that. Who's that from? Kayla? Kayla, thanks for that one. I can spot that. I look at a document and it's like, what's wrong with this thing? It just disrupts my thought process. Oh no, there's a FedEx truck. The dog's going to bark. Get ready. And that's an important point because anything that disrupts my thought process when I'm reading, told you. Okay, it's good. It's cool. Spanky, quiet. Good. You can't make this stuff up when you're working from home. Okay, so anyway, anything that disrupts my thought process when I'm reading something is bad because you're trying to get a message through to me. And if I look at a duplicate word or a misspelled word or something like that, it moves my train of thought, kind of like a dog barking. And I can't get your whole message. Lack of punctuation for sure. Yeah. Different font settings. We talked about that. Lack of punctuation. Oh, THX. See, that's one of those text abbreviations that you shouldn't use. 3 or more spaces in between sentences. Should be 2. Misspelled words. Oh, I love this. You guys are great. Abbreviations that are not known outside of individual departments. I'm going to shut my office door. I'll be right back. Y'all just wait. Keep typing. Love my puppies, I tell you. They're so sweet. Such rotten beasts. Run-on sentences. Oh man, I hate that too. Okay, lots of things. So these are a lot of the common things that I hear when I ask people this question. That their documents are too long, they're too complex, they're unorganized. Sometimes you can't find things. Those spelling errors, grammar errors, punctuation errors, that's troublesome. That really bothers us. Sometimes there's inappropriate tone, right? Ineffective format, like the 3 spaces. Yeah. So there are lots of things to think about. The point I just want to make again is that the reason these things bother us is because it's like taking your eye off the ball. I'm trying to read your message. I'm trying to understand what you want. And if I see something that makes me go, hey, are there supposed to be 3 spaces there? I've just lost my focus on your message. And that's why these things are so important. How we communicate. I talked about this in other classes, but I want to bring it up again because this is what research shows us, that there are 3 ways that we interpret information: through tone of voice, through the words that we use, and through visual clues. And you can see what the percentages are on this, which is not an exact science and it's not meant to be that way. But I like to use this to show you that people are interpreting messages through these 3 channels, even in writing. And in writing, look how huge that visual is. I mean, we put messages out there and we expect them to just know what our tone of voice was. That's why, you guys have known me for like, 12 minutes now. And you already know that I'm very funny. But when I write like that, it sounds like sarcasm. And I'm sitting here chuckling, thinking this is so funny. And my tone doesn't come through. So people think, oh, what is this? She's being sarcastic or whatever. So it's really hard in writing, the visual thing. How do I put visuals in writing? Well, I'm going to show you some examples today. We have to appeal to that to get our messages through because this is how people understand information. So it's important that we consider that when we're writing messages. So today I'm going to break this into 3 sections. First things first, before you write, what you have to do: organizing your content, logical steps for that, and writing clear, concise, easy to read messages. Now here's the bad news. I'm terribly sorry about this bad news, but first things first, you have to think before you write. The good news is if you practice this, the things that I'm going to tell you, you'll get faster at it and it'll be better. And overall, you'll save a lot of time. But it's very possible until you start using these techniques, it'll seem like it's taking you longer to write things because you're having to think about it. But once you've practiced it and used it, you'll see that it really does help you to write more effectively and to save time. So first things first, and the first question you have to consider before you write a word is, who's going to read this thing? Who's your reader? Because you're going to write differently depending on who your reader is, right? So we have to think about it. What's your relationship to the reader? Why do we care about that? Because if I'm writing to my boss, I'm probably going to write differently than if I'm writing to a good friend, right? So who's the reader? What's my relationship to them? And how does that affect the message that I'm going to write? What do they already know? Man, send me a long message and you tell me all the stuff I already know. You're insulting my intelligence and taking up my time. Please, if you know I already know this, okay, skip it. But if you don't know that I know it, then make sure that I understand where you're coming from. So that's important. What questions will they have? Boy, if I can head that off, wouldn't that be cool? Because then they wouldn't have to send me a message back saying, I have some questions. Look how much time that would save me, right? So if I think in advance about what questions I think you're going to have, then I can write the message, answer those questions, and hopefully save this exchange of emails all over the place or messages in other ways. Is there a secondary reader? We have to think about this, especially in the public sector, because you never know. You can't just assume that your message is only going to be read by the person it's addressed to, right? Oh, and here's another tip for you. Get this. If you're the to person in the address, like in an email, it's to Debbie. Okay, then this message is to Debbie. And if I CC Janice, Janice doesn't really have permission to comment on this message. She's only CC'd. She's a secondary party. So she shouldn't be starting this big old chain of email based on the message I wrote. She would have to start all over and do a different message with a different subject. She doesn't really have permission to just jump in and attack this message and start sending it all over the world. Doesn't mean she won't, because you know Janice. Kidding. But yeah, so think about who you're CCing. And even when you don't CC, boy, you know, I can't tell you how many offices I walk into and there's just papers laying all over the place. Messages, memos, whatever. So never assume that somebody else isn't going to see your message. What's the best outcome? Before you write, you got to decide, why in the world am I writing this and what do I want from this? And then you got to tell me. You got to tell me exactly what you want from this. You know, what action are you looking for? You know, don't write me a message just to write me a message. Although that's sweet, you can put that in a card. But if this is a business world and you're writing me a message, please be really specific with me about what it is that you want. Here's why. Our readers need to quickly find what they need. Please don't make me search for it. Help me to find it easily. Help me to understand it once I find it. And help me to use what I find to meet your needs. So this is really important. If you can think in terms of this, that'll help you really in planning what your messages are going to say and planning before you write. Our readers need to quickly find what they need, to understand what they find, and to use what they find to meet their needs. It should still be professional and friendly. I've said it should be more casual, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we're talking about business writing, which means it should be professional and it should be friendly. So be personable, but not too casual. Get to the point right away. As a matter of fact, the thing I'm going to repeat to you over and over again is the first line of an email should really be the purpose of it, or the first line of a message, the first line of a report, first line of anything you write should tell me why in the world you're writing this. Why do I care? If you don't catch me right in the beginning, it's going to go over there on the desk. Yeah, like that report that's sitting over there. Stay on subject. You know, don't jump around. If you have 3 things you need to talk about, if they're not all related to the same subject, then you need 3 emails. I can't keep up with all of that, you know, so pay attention to the subject and make sure you stay on subject. Watch your tone, because remember, that's an important part of the way that I interpret messages, but it's really hard to do in business writing. So even though I think I'm really funny, I write funny things and then I look back at it and I usually take it out, because I don't know if you're going to understand that it's funny just by reading this. Now, if you're somebody that knows me really well, chances are you're gonna read that message with my voice in your head and you're gonna know I'm being funny, and that's cool. But if you don't know me really well, you might think I'm being sarcastic or even rude, you know, so just be careful with the tone. I'm going to show you a way to make it neutral, to leave tone out of it. It's coming up really soon. So you can just have a message that explains exactly what they need and doesn't get them all off on another tangent. having to do with tone. And anything that you can do to connect with your reader is advised. Anything that you can do. And I'll show you some examples of what I mean with connect, okay? So connect. Here's an example. I'm going to read it to you out loud. All right. So here's the first message that was sent. We cannot process your timesheet because you have left out important information that makes it impossible for us to put it through APS. First thing I'm going is, what's APS? Probably automatic payroll system. But look what just happened. I just took my eye off the ball. You just lost me right there. Okay, so be careful with that. Now, if you know they know what APS is, cool. When someone leaves out this information, APS will not accept any data and we have to start over. It has been sent back to you. So here's the thing you did with this message. You told me why this is inconvenient for you. Frankly, my dear, I'm very busy. You haven't told me specifically what you need. We cannot process your timesheet because you have left out important information. Well, what did I leave out that makes it impossible for us to put it through APS? I'm not even sure what that is and what you're putting it through. That doesn't even affect me. When someone leaves out this information, APS will not accept any data and we have to start over. I'm so sorry for you. It has been sent back to you. Like, okay. So let me read it to you with thinking about connection. Okay. How about this? Chris. Oh, there's a first step when you're trying to connect with somebody. Use their name. You know, for a while in email messages, we were just like blurting out what we wanted to say and not saying, hello, Patricia, you know, when we started. And we've learned that's wrong. Why? Because of tone. You know, the reader needs a second to go, oh, hi, you know, hello. So you need to start with a greeting like, hello, Patricia. So Chris, we can process your timesheet after you, we have bullet points here. 1, fill in section 1, dates. 2, complete section 12, total hours. Please complete those sections and return your timesheet to us by Friday. Think of all the things that I have done right there to connect with that reader. I've used their name. I've made my point very clear. It's very clearly stated in bullet points exactly what I need to do. None of the extra stuff about how it's not going to process an APS, which frankly isn't my problem anyway, right? It's their problem. Make it my problem. So all I need to do is do this and return it by Friday. Very specific. Tells me exactly what to do and when to do it by. Very easy for me to see and find out what I need to do. If I'm Chris and I'm this kind of a reader, I can look at this message and go, 1, fill in section 1, 2, complete section 12. Oh, okay. I don't even have to read the rest of the message because you told me specifically what to do. And I can do it like that instead of setting it aside for later. So see how you set yourself up for success there? So anything that you can do to connect with your reader is just a great, great idea. The second part of first things first is defining your purpose. Why are you even writing this message? And that's the question you should ask yourself first. What's the point of this? What's the point of this report? What's the point of this message? What's the point of this letter? Whatever it is. Honestly, if you can't answer that question, then don't write. Don't write. You got nothing to say. You know. So the first thing is, why are you writing this? And then what outcome do you want? I want you to have this timesheet back to me by Friday. Then tell me that. You know, what's the outcome? Be specific. What action will you need? So you have to be really specific with your reader and what the purpose of this is and why you're writing. And if you do that for me, then I'm going to be able to give you what you need and save us both time. So defining your purpose, thinking up front about who is your reader and what you need to do to connect with your reader. So the first things first means planning. Planning for what your message is going to say and how you're going to say it. So you need to spend a few minutes thinking about that before you just start hammering on those keys. And that's not easy because sometimes I just really want to hammer on those keys. But that's really not going to be very effective for me. I have to think about a person, how to get the right tone across, how to answer the questions that they need answered, and how to put it all together in such a way that it's easy for them to read, like I talked about before. So that brings us to the second thing we need to be aware of, and that is logical organization. How to organize our documents in such a way that people can easily finding information that we need. So I have some tips for you on this, on how to logically organize. And there is a method to it. There is a method to it. And I just call it very simple, OMC, which means, if you can see the screen, open, middle, close. Boy, that sounds easy, doesn't it? It sounds so basic. Yeah, we should get that. So in the open, you state your purpose, be direct. Remember, I already said that the first thing that you should say in any message that you write, any document that you write, is, why am I writing this? Your purpose goes first. Your purpose is first. So start with that. The open is, why am I writing this? See, your purpose. The middle is your story. Tell your story, be clear and concise. Tell the reader what to do. And then when you get to the close, thank you, how to contact me, and dated action. Let me show you a little more on this open, middle, close thing. Okay, so the open. Remember that the opening paragraph gives the reader the purpose. This is your chance. This is your chance to hook them. Because honestly, if you don't hook them, like in that first sentence, you're going to lose them. And they may not read the rest of your message. Frankly, there are some people who have a pretty hard time reading email and never actually do. True. So anything you can do in the beginning. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, but the first sentence should be the purpose. I mean, in the first sentence, I'd like to say, hi, how are you? Hope you're doing well. You know, some greeting like that. Okay, it goes back to who is your reader. Now, if you know this person and you want to be friendly and have that professional tone, then okay, go ahead and start with, hi, I enjoyed meeting with you last week. But you have to know that reader, because there are some people who you'll lose right there because they think the rest of the thing is about the meeting last week or about the fact that you're happy and I got to go. So be careful about that. Make sure that you know that that person's going to make it to the second sentence if that's what you do. Very best thing you can do for me is go ahead and tell me what you need to tell me. And then at the end say, by the way, I enjoyed our meeting last week. You know, put that at the end if you have extra stuff like that. But first thing, hit me with the purpose of this. So in your opening, purpose, first thing. In the middle. I call this the soft stuff in the middle. So it's kind of like an Oreo cookie. You know, the story, the explanation of what's going on. You know, you need to get to the point here. Be clear, be concise. Big fan of bullet points for this. The thing is if they make it past the opening, which is that nice, yummy chocolate crust, if they don't make it through that, they'll never get to the like creamy filling, right? So first we have to hook them in the opening and then get them to the middle. And in the middle, now we can tell our story. Now you can take a little more time. And then finally you have your close. And in the close, thank you, how to get in touch, and an action date if needed. Open, middle, close. Now this applies to all types of documents, even email. And sometimes an email, the open, middle, and close can be in one paragraph, maybe even in a couple of sentences. It depends on what it is. But like my friend who sent me these block texts of email, if she would have just taken a little time to, in the open, tell me what this is about, and then make me a bulleted list for the middle, and at the close telling me exactly what she wants me to do with this, could have made it through those messages. But instead, out of respect for her, I'm sitting there with a highlighter pen trying to do that for myself. So the open, the purpose, the middle is all the gooey stuff. Make it bullets if you can. That's a very quick way for me to read, is if you make bullet points. And then in the end, how to get in touch. Let me show you an example. I'll read it to you for those of you that can't see the screen. So here's an example. It says, Pat and I can meet with you Thursday at 10 o'clock to discuss ways to improve customer service. That's the open. That's all of it. Let's think about it again. Pat and I can meet with you Thursday at 10 o'clock to discuss ways to improve customer service. So the purpose of this was to set up a meeting with Pat and this person to discuss customer service. You've told me that right there, like in one sentence. Thank you very much. The next part, which is the middle, I could probably skip because I already understand that we're going to meet Thursday at 10. So it depends on your reader and what they're going to do. but we as writers feel like we need to tell them, so we'll tell them. So in the middle, it says, at Thursday's meeting, we will discuss 1, our best ideas for improving customer service. 2, ways to implement immediate improvements in our phone system. 3, how to use our website to keep our customers informed. Now, you can hear that or hopefully see that. It's a nice bulleted list that just tells you the 3 things that are on your agenda for the meeting. You can imagine how long this message would be if you wrote it out in narrative, right? But this is just short and to the point. Here's the 3 things we're going to discuss. There's another thing about this list, if you can see it, and if not, I'll tell you what it looks like. I actually used a visual cue for the reader. That really means that the way this is written, the reader could go, at Thursday's meeting, we will discuss best ideas, phone system, website. Got it. Because those terms are highlighted. I mean, they're actually bolded. So our best ideas is bolded. Ways to implement immediate improvements in our phone system is bolded. How to use our website is bolded. So that's a way to use visuals. You've got 2 strong visuals in this. The first one is the bulleted list, which takes me right where I need to go in the middle. And the second one are those bolded phrases within the bullets that draw my eye and help me to just read that so quickly, because really that's the 3 things I need to know. Now the close. Remember, the close has to be friendly and tell you how to reach me and that kind of thing. So we appreciate your willingness to meet with us on Thursday at 10 o'clock. If you have questions, please contact me. Okay, very short. Again, I'm telling her exactly what she has to do. We appreciate your willingness to meet with us Thursday on 10 o'clock at 10 o'clock. So again, I've reinforced that we're meeting Thursday at 10. If she decides to skip the rest of the message, she still knows we have to meet Thursday at 10 because that's what I said first. So I'm just reinforcing. If you have questions, please contact me. This is another place where people kind of put too many words in. If you have questions, have you ever seen the phrase, if you have questions or need more information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Do you know how many more words that is than if you have questions, please contact me? And it just lengthens the message. The eye looks at that message and goes, oh no, I can't deal with this. So a lot of those habitual phrases that we've used in writing, we need to lose that. I mean, if you have questions, please contact me, says it all. We don't need to say, oh, if you have questions or need further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. We don't need all that. That's just a habit. It's cliche. So we need to get rid of that. Okay, so if you can see this on screen, you can read this message so quickly and it gets right to the point. If I'm reading it to myself on the screen, here's how I'd probably read it. Pat and I can meet with you Thursday at 10. At Thursday's meeting, best ideas, phone system, website. Thursday, 10. Got it. I'm done. When I see an email like that, and I know that's from you, I'm going to read your email a lot more effectively than other people because I know I can get through it quickly and get what I need. And here's the thing. Now, if I want to go back and read it more thoroughly, I can. It's there. But I know what I need to know. We're meeting Thursday at 10. I know the topics for our agenda. That's all I need. So it's really easy to draw that out, like where it says in the beginning, Pat and I can meet with you Thursday at 10 to discuss ways to improve customer service. You'll see people write things like, as we discussed last week, I talked with Pat about setting up a meeting for us to talk about customer service. And we have decided that Thursday at 10 would be a good time to meet. Does that work for you? I mean, look how much length that adds to it. It sounds really nice, but the more words you have up there, the more you drag that out, the less chance you have of me actually getting the message that you need me to get. The thing is if 10 o'clock on Thursday is not good, I'm going to tell you whether you tell me to or not. You don't have to say, let me know if that's okay, because I'm going to tell you if it's not okay, right? Of course, we have to think about our reader and make sure that we're being personable and kind. What you can see about this, though, is that there's no tone. None. It's completely neutral. There's no chance for you to misinterpret my message because of tone. Whereas if I go put something in there like, if this isn't okay with you, let me know. I'm like, oh, please. You know, it depends on the person. So just knowing your reader and knowing that you don't need a lot of those extra words or that tone can be misinterpreted, you're just setting yourself up. So you can see what that message is like. It's very concise. It's to the point, right? Very visually appealing, helps me to find exactly what I need, and I understand what to do now that I'm looking at the message. So that open, middle, close trick works for any kind of message, document, email, memo, report, anything that you use. First, the purpose, the middle gives the details, and the close clarifies your expectations for action. So this really helps you as the writer to organize your information, which sometimes, I struggle with how to organize the information. This helps you to organize. It's very simple. Open, middle, close, OMC, all the time. Anything you write, open, middle, close, define those sections. So it helps you to organize it so that the reader is going to be able to find what they need, understand it when they find it, and take the action that they need to take. Make sure that the message is clear up front, right in the beginning. Helps the reader to find what they need without wading through a whole bunch of extra stuff, which none of us enjoy doing. We know what we're supposed to do. And it helps me as a writer to exclude a bunch of excess information. Honestly, we usually write way more than we need. And that's what gets us in trouble. If you've ever had to write like a response to a complaint, we're usually trying to justify. We'll usually put in there about, we're so sorry this happened, and, this happened because of such and such, and, we end up taking it on a tangent, which usually gets us in more trouble. Where we should just say, we're sorry this happened, here's what we're going to do to fix it, have a great day. Just get to the point. Open, middle, close. I'm writing you because you sent me a complaint letter. What we're going to do to fix it is A and B, and call me if you have questions. Done. One of the things that I really advise people to do, and I'll ask you to think about this, is to take some of the messages or whatever you've written lately, a letter, a report, whatever, take it and just look at it to see how many of those extra words you have in there that aren't needed. Just like when I asked you guys what aggravated you, there were quite a few comments about, extra words, redundant words, right? So how many words are in that thing that you don't need? And here's what you do. Here's how you do this. It's really interesting. You should try this. If we were in person, I'd make you do it. But virtually, it's harder for me to do, so I'm just going to have to trust you to go try this. Take something that you've written, something kind of lengthy, a lengthy email, a lengthy memo, whatever. Take a pencil, start reading, and start crossing out words. Cross out any word that doesn't add to your message, any word that could be eliminated. You won't believe it. It's like most of the time we're writing so many extra words in there, we don't even realize that we're doing it. So go ahead and just take any messages you've written or whatever and try that activity. Just start marking out things so that you can see how many extra words you've included that you just don't even really need. It's craziness, man. I'm telling you, it's craziness. Very interesting to do. All right, the third thing that you have to do is to write clear, concise, and easy to read messages. Okay. We have to make it easy, as I've been saying, for our reader to find what's needed. So there's a lot of formatting tricks that we can use to help them. To help them to emphasize the text. And I'll show you a few, like vertical lists. And that doesn't mean, the way you walk when you've had too much to drink. That means a bulleted list. That's what a vertical list is. Adding white space. Sometimes we don't use enough white space. We try, I love this, have somebody trying to write a one-page letter to their customers and they've made it a size 10 font and widened the margins. Just start marking out words. It'll fit. You probably just use way too many words. Did you know that letters, I think the statistic, I should have refreshed my mind on that today, but I think it's like close to 90% of the second page of letters goes unread. It goes in the garbage unread. You know, and so you only get a little window of time to get people to pay attention. So you gotta open with something that makes me want to read the rest of this. And it can't be overwhelming to my eyes. You know, if my eyes look at this and go, this is gonna be bad, then I set it aside, right? Oh my gosh, it's from the government. Forget about this. This is gonna be bad. You know, I set it aside. So you gotta make it really appealing to me visually so that I can process that I can get through this. Okay. And that was the beauty of that message I showed you with the open, middle, close. You look at that on your screen and you go, I can read this fast. Let's read it. Instead of, I'll have to read this later. This is too much. Okay. So clarity. When your writing is clear, there are some real big results that come from this. And one of them is fewer phone calls. You know, you get fewer phone calls for people asking for clarification. There's been some astounding studies on this of companies, organizations who have rewritten their customer letters to make them more plain and clear and reduced actually the number of customer service representatives they needed because their letters were so confusing that people had to call them to try to clarify. And that's not the way it should be. You know, it should be clear in the first place. Reduction in follow-up correspondence. You know, you don't have to send another letter to clarify something because it was clear in the first place. Or, oh, I love this one. I worked with a company that, well, it was a government organization. You know, the tags, those little tags. Did you know that you have to have a tag to have a mobile home? I didn't know that until I worked with them. So to have a mobile home, you actually have to have, the county I was working with, they had to have a little tag in the window that they were licensed by the county. And the problem is they were spending so much time on this because people didn't renew the tags. And it was a mess, you know, it's like they're spending so much time on this and it's such a little thing. When I read their letter, I was like, I don't even know what this means. What do you want me to do? You know, I was so perplexed by it that they were going, oh boy, maybe this is the problem. And they had to send so many more letters because people didn't comply. You know, and if they didn't do it within X days, they had to send another letter. You know, it's government. So they had to give them lots of warning. And then they didn't, so many more days, they had to send another letter. And they had like 3 full-time people just trying to take care of mobile home stickers. It was because their letter was so bad that you couldn't even understand what they were supposed to do. And I mean, this is thinking about your audience too. You know, these people are living in mobile homes. If I lived in a mobile home, I honestly would not understand that I had to have a license for my mobile home that's a tag that went in my window. I've never heard of such a thing, you know? So I get this letter, it's from the government, it's 2 pages long, both pages are very full of text, and wonder why people ignore it, right? We fixed that letter. It fixed a lot of stuff for them just because we made the letter understandable. So reduction in follow-up correspondence, less time on the phone, less complaints from your constituents, not as many errors because people understood it the first time, happier readers, happier constituents, just better outcomes overall. So here's something shocking. You ready for this one? Plain language is actually a law. Yep, it is. There's a federal law called the Plain Language Act, and it was signed originally by, I think, President Clinton. It was re-signed by President Obama. It's on the books. The state I live in, Florida, actually has a law that goes along with it. Most states do, so you should check to see. The reason I want to tell you about this is because I know some of you are going to want to go do some research after this. I hope you will, because this is really a fascinating topic, I think, if I do say so myself. But there's a website. It's www.plainlanguage.gov. And if you can't see the screen, maybe Debbie, you could pop that in for them so that they'll have that address, www.plainlanguage.gov. It's the best website I have ever seen about business writing, and it was done by the government. Amazing. It's really an awesome site though, because it has like before and after examples, and it has like some basics of how to write in plain language. The law was written to clarify legal stuff from the government, to clarify government documents. And it really has gone a long way in making them more understandable. I think any of us that have looked at legal documents from the government could say it could go a lot further, but they're trying. They're trying. But the website's great because it gives some before and after examples, but it also has a ton of resources like lists of redundant words and lists of shortened words and phrases that you can use. It even has some exercises that you can do. It's really a fantastic website. In a longer session, I'd pull it up and show you some of the stuff because I just think it's an amazing website. So it's a great resource for you. But the good news is that if you're talking with anyone about, writing more effectively, you can say with authority that this is not just something you believe we should do, it's the law. Maybe that'll work. It is the law, though. It really is a law. Interesting. Oh, here's a before and after example. So I'll read it out loud for our people that can't see the screen. Okay, so before, and this is from that website. Okay, before it said, we must receive your completed application form on or before the 15th day of the second month following the month you are reporting if you do not submit your application electronically, or the 25th day of the second month following the month you are reporting if you submit your application electronically. Did that make any sense to you? Because it made no sense to me at all. We must receive your completed application form on or before the 15th day of the second month following the month you are reporting if you do not submit your application electronically, or the 25th day of the second month following the month you are reporting if you submit your application electronically. You see, no wonder people don't respond to these things. So in their rewrite, they made a table, which is a pretty great visual. And the table has two columns. First column says, if you submit your form electronically or not electronically. And the second column is, we must receive it by, and has the date. Okay, so if you submit your form electronically, we must receive it by the 25th of the second month. If you submit your form not electronically, we must receive it by the 15th of the second month. Well, that makes a whole lot more sense. And look at all the words that were eliminated. That whole paragraph is gone. Now this is what they use. If you want like an old time example of this, if any of you have any really old cars, like, classic cars that now have the antique license plates, there used to be this warning on the visor of the car, the visor, that thing you flip down, that would tell you about rollover risk. And one day somebody woke up and said, holy cow, people can't read that when they're driving. They're not going to read that. So now if you look in cars, they all have pictures. They have pictures, they have a visual showing you about the rollover risk. So yeah, so this is another great example of how to use visuals to really improve your business writing. So go to that website, look at the examples. It's just fascinating, but visuals are just so important. Here, I got to show you this. This is from Winston Churchill. This is for real. This is a real quote. This report, by its very length, defends itself against the risk of being read. This report, by its very length, defends itself against the risk of being read. I love that. That's so cool. And isn't that the truth? I mean, how many reports do you receive that, it's just when it's too long, when you look at it, it's like, I can't read this. And it's a shame because there's so much good information, and somebody worked really hard on this thing, to try to make it, to give us all that we needed, and we just mentally can't even handle it because it's just too much. So keep it short. And let me tell you what this looks like on your computer screen. On your computer screen, and this is a guideline only, but to tell you the truth, I'm pretty firm with this. I think this makes a lot of sense. When you're typing an email or typing a memo, whatever, or a letter, for sentences, 2 to 3 lines average. If your sentence is more than 2 to 3 lines, it's probably that run-on sentence that Patricia told us makes her very upset. So we don't want to upset Patricia. Paragraphs, 7 to 8 lines, and then it should break. Even when the content is related. You know, my 7th grade teacher, she said, everything that's related to the subject has to be in one paragraph. Not anymore. It's more important that you separate the paragraph once it gets past 7 to 8 lines, because we now understand that the brain needs that white space. And if you want to have a chance of your messages being read, this is how you do it. You don't just write one continuous block of text. If I see any of my paragraphs getting beyond 7 to 8 lines, I just find a place to break it, start a new paragraph. It's awfully easy to hit that enter key. So just look for a place to break it and break it. If you go much past that, it just really turns your reader off. So how in the world do you do this? Well, there's lots of techniques you can use. One thing is just to consciously use everyday words. You know, so you see some people who believe that they should use really technical terms and impress their reader with their knowledge and their intelligence. But honestly, I have a book over here that I refer to all the time about technical writing. And the first thing it says is to use plain language. And they're not talking about the law. They're talking about plain language. Use plain language. You know, there's no reason to impress people with your words. It's more important that people understand your message. So, you know, just use plain everyday words. Watch out for those redundant words that somebody was mentioning before, and wordy phrases. I'll show you a couple of examples of that. And then, you know, like I said, just strike those words that aren't needed. So I'm pretty firm on this because of the brain science and the visual. 2 to 3 lines average for a sentence. If it goes beyond that, you're probably writing a run-on sentence. Use your punctuation to fix it. There's a whole section on punctuation in the ebook. So, you know, grab your copy of the ebook and look at that section on punctuation. Paragraphs, 7 to 8 lines average. That will really help you to keep it short and to keep your reader interested in what they're saying there. But hold everything. When is short? Too short. Yeah, sometimes, you know, we get a little carried away with this short thing. I've seen some people who have taken a class like this and they take it to the other extreme and they become too short. And really there's a very, very simple answer to this. When is short too short? When it's no longer friendly. You know, we want a neutral tone, but we also want it to be friendly. You know, you don't cut it off and make it so that it sounds like, you know, you're being a jerk. So when it's no longer friendly, I mean, messages still have to be personable. And when it gets to the point where you're leaving out information that your reader needs, because you have to go back to the beginning of what we talked about. You know, first you got to think about your reader. What does your reader need? What questions do they have? How much do they already know? All of those questions. So you have to make sure that you give enough information to meet the purpose of writing this and that it's friendly. So watch out about getting too short, because every now and then people will shorten it to the point that the tone changes from neutral to rude. Have you ever seen that happen? Yeah, me too. So be careful with that. Of course, it depends on the audiences as well. I had one customer that I was writing emails to, and he was very non-responsive, and it was so frustrating because I knew he cared and he loved me, you know, so to speak. But he just wasn't responding to any of my email, and I was so frustrated with it. I finally called him and said, hey, you know, I've sent you a bunch of email and I'm not getting anything, because honestly, between the two of us, I spent a lot of time writing that email because I wanted all these things. You know, I thought about what he needed, what his questions were going to be, making sure my tone was right. I spent a lot of time and didn't respond to any of them. When I called him, he said, listen, there's something you need to know about me. The only part of my email I read is the subject line. So if you have something to tell me, it has to be in the subject line. Okay, that could have saved me a lot of time if I knew that. But I learned an important lesson there, and that is, you know, when I meet someone new that I'm going to be corresponding with, now I have conversations with them about what is best for you, what do you prefer. In another situation where I was getting no answers to email, I found out that she prefers text. And if I text her, she answers right away. If I email her, she says, I just don't get the email. I just don't read it. So again, my mistake. It's my job to understand my reader. It's my job to understand what they need to get my messages through. So, caution, right? Oh, I love this story. Okay, so this message was shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Okay, right after the bombing. There was this guy, James Landis. He was the head of civil defense. He was the former head of Harvard Law School. And he issued a written policy on how to darken Washington, D.C. in case of an air raid at night. And he was charged with going to reporters and delivering this message of what the policy would be. And here's what he said. He said, such obscuration may be obtained either by blackout construction or by termination of the illumination. And this is a true story. They say that when he said this out loud, the reporters actually laughed. They laughed because they did not know what this meant. Such obscuration may be obtained either by blackout construction or by termination of the illumination. They didn't know what it meant. They laughed. So this is a pretty good example. What he was really trying to say was cover the windows or turn off the lights. If he would have just said cover the windows or turn off the lights, would have gone a lot better for him. But hey, what are you going to do? Yeah. Okay. So cover the windows or turn off the lights. So that's what I mean about using short, everyday words, words that people understand, and don't be all hung up in how smart you are, using big words, especially today. We want to be more conversational. So eliminating some of those wordy phrases. And the thing about this is I think that it's a habit. I think people get into the habit of using these phrases and they don't even realize that it's something that they're routinely doing. Just like when you say, don't hesitate to contact me, we're just in the habit. No, that's not needed. So there's some examples on the slide. Like instead of saying there's a large number of, we can just say there are many, right? Just think every time you cut some of those words, it shortens the message to make it more brain friendly and more readable for your reader. As a general rule, why not just say generally, right? On a weekly basis, just say weekly. Instead of saying take action, just say act. In the near future, just say soon, and so on. There's a couple others on here. You can Google this, wordy phrases, and you can see, all kinds of examples of wordy phrases. There are lists of these things that give you some information on what you can cut to make your messages shorter. So if you're in the habit of using these kind of phrases, this could be something you could work on for real, because anything that we can do to just make our messages easier for people to understand and to do what's needed to make it to fulfill our purpose. Another thing is positive versus negative. There are some people in this world who just seem to be negative, and who they just seem to have a negative view on things, and they come across negative. And I don't know about you, but those are kind of hard for me because I'm a pretty optimistic person. What I found though is a lot of times they don't even realize that they're being negative because it's the words that they use and the way that they phrase things. So be careful that you're not coming across as negative. Anything you can do to sound positive in your messages. So just a couple of little examples here to show you what I mean. Like, okay, so no employee smoking anywhere except outside by the propane tanks. Okay, so there's no smoking allowed anywhere except outside by the propane tanks. Got it. But what if we try to make that into a positive statement? Like, what can we do? Let's try to make it into a positive statement. How about if we say employee smoking permitted outside by the propane tanks? Go ahead, blow yourself up. It's cool. Yeah, I'm just being funny. But seriously, you see the difference in that? No employee smoking anywhere except outside by the propane tanks versus employee smoking permitted outside by the propane tanks. So anything you can do to make messages positive. How about this one? You've probably seen this sign. Positively no children without an adult. Honestly, if I walk up to that establishment and I have children, then I'm thinking this is not a place I want to be. I probably don't read past that sign. I probably turn around and go somewhere else because this is not a child-friendly place. As opposed to saying, children welcome when accompanied by an adult. You see the difference in that? How much difference that makes? Positively no children without an adult. This place is not child-friendly. I gotta go. Versus children welcome when accompanied by an adult. Well, of course they're going to be accompanied by an adult. You think I'm going to send my kid in there without me? Sure, no problem, right? Much different message. Or this one, if we don't receive payment within 2 weeks, your policy will be canceled. How can we make that positive? That's what I said. This takes a little planning and a little thinking. Okay, let's see. If we don't receive payment within 2 weeks, your policy will be canceled. How about please send payment within 2 weeks to avoid cancellation, right? So anything you can do to make these things, make your language positive. I like to call it a whole new language, and I call it can-do language. And can-do language means that whenever I'm writing a message, even I try to do this verbally even, instead of telling people what I can't do, I try to put it in terms of what I can do. You know, can you have lunch on Friday? I can have lunch on Monday. Can you have this report ready for me in 2 hours? I can have it ready tomorrow. You know, so talk about what you can do instead of what you can't do. This is a way of conveying positive tone in your messages, you know, to not use the negative language and to talk in terms of what you can do versus what you can't do. So just think about being positive in your correspondence. And for heaven's sakes, be specific. And I have a little cartoon up here. I'll read it to you. It's this person, this little kid wants to be pushed on a swing. And he walks up and says, will you push me? And the adult says, sure, kid. And the adult just pushes him down on the ground. And the kid wanted to be pushed on the swing. And the kid says, I've got to learn to be more specific. And that's the same with our business writing. We have to be really specific. I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to read you some examples of what I'm talking about here, whether you think they're good or bad, all right, if they're specific enough. All right, here we go. I just wanted to forward this information in case you have a chance to look at it in the very near future. So this is an actual message that someone wrote. I just wanted to forward this information in case you have a chance to look at it in the very near future. Okay, so first of all, we've all heard the word just is just overused. We don't need that word just, it needs to go. All right, so if I just say, I use just again. If I say, I wanted to forward this information in case you have a chance to look at it in the very near future. I'm probably never going to look at that. You're not even asking me to look at it. You say, yeah, well, here it is. If you want to look at it, you know, if you want to look at it. If you need me to look at it, you need to tell me to look at it. You know, that's not specific at all. So the chances are the reader's never going to look at this information. The very near future thing, nah, right? So if you want to be specific, if I need you to look at this, you need to say, I need you to look at this information by Friday. Okay? You have to be specific. Here's another one I read. Send the form with anything that applies to the claim, such as invoices, etc. See, etc. is a very dangerous term because it could be anything and it could be nothing. Etc. means different things to different people. I don't even know what that means. It's wide open for interpretation or misinterpretation. So what do you need? I mean, etc. I can't think of another thing. And really, in my mind, when I'm writing this, I might have been thinking of 5 or 6 different things and figured, you know what I'm talking about. That's a mistake. It's got to be specific. So if there are 5 or 6 things, you better list them out for me. Be really specific with that. So etc. is something to stay away from. Very dangerous. Try not to use that. You know, just to tell you, every now and then I'll write etc. and then say, what do you mean by etc.? And I can't answer myself. So I have to get rid of that. Here's another one. Boy, I'm really not good at advancing this today, am I? There we go. Please return this to me before January 1, 2022. There we go. That's very specific. That tells me exactly when you need it. January 1, 2022. Very specific. I like that. How about this one? Please call me upon receipt of this letter. I don't know. That one's a little rough because that gives me the ability to say I didn't get the letter yet. So I don't know. And the other thing that worries me about that is, do I know how to call you? I don't know about you, but boy, if I have to spend time finding a number, chances are it's going to get put to the side for a while and I'll get to it later. But if the number's right there, I'll usually just do it right there. And so I would say on this one, just make sure that you just put that number right there. Please call me at this number upon receipt. I wouldn't say as soon as possible. Those are bad words, because as soon as possible means something very different for me than it means to you. You know, some people think as soon as possible means as soon as I can do it. Other people think as soon as possible means as soon as I think it's important. And other people think it means right now. It means all kinds of different things. So ASAP is just setting yourself up for failure. If you need it by Friday, say you need it by Friday, right? Be specific. Clear and concise. Paragraphs no more than 7 to 8 lines on your computer screen. Eliminate those extra words that have no value. If you can cut a word, cut it, like the word just. If a short word will work, use the short word. Contractions are middle, and no matter what, stick with open, middle, close, regardless of the length of your document. If you can clearly identify those sections, your reader will be in a much better position to understand your message. So open, middle, close. Oh, this is funny. I found this in the newspaper, believe it or not. A new visitor center at Jim Beam. So Jim Beam makes bourbon, in case you didn't know it, and they have this brand new visitor center. And they published this in the paper talking about their visitor center. Read this if you can, and I'll read it out loud for the rest of you. This is a direct quote from the paper. It said, Kentucky produces 95% of the world's bourbon. The state has more barrels of bourbon aging in warehouses than it does people. And I'm thinking, I'm so glad. I wonder how many people they have aging in warehouses. Because that's what it says, right? Kentucky produces 95% of the world's bourbon. The state has more barrels of bourbon aging in warehouses than it does people. That still cracks me up. So that's what I'm talking about sometimes, about those little grammatical problems, you know, that we think aren't a big deal. And really, they can be a pretty big deal. So be careful how you write those things. You could say, the state has more barrels of bourbon aging in warehouses than it has people living in the state. That would correct it. So yeah, watch what you're doing with that. Easy to read design. And this is what I've been talking about with the visuals. So just a few examples for you. Just make it easy for your reader to figure out where to go. Just like a table of contents helps you to know where to go. But there are a lot of tools that are available to help you with this. Whatever you can do to make it stand out really helps me as the reader to find when I need to go, exactly where I need to go. One of my favorite things are those lists, those bulleted lists. I think lists are great for almost everything. They really help me as a writer to organize my thoughts and to be specific about what I want to say to you. And they help the reader to find it right away. And the example I have on the screen, it says, please register for this class in one of 4 ways. I took this from a narrative where they had it all written out and made it into a bulleted list. So in one of 4 ways. And then there are 4 highlighted words: mail, online, phone, in person. What you've done is given me permission to skip all the rest of the stuff. I only have to read the one that applies to me. And then each one of those tells you specifically how to do it. Mail, send a registration form and check. That's what I want to do. I don't need to read the rest. Thank you very much for saving me from that. Oh, but wait, what is this online option? Let me look at that. Maybe I want to do that. But you can see how I can process this message so much easier than if I'm trying to read through a narrative to figure out how to register. What usually happens when this kind of message is written as a narrative is it doesn't get the kind of response that one that's written clearly in bullets like this gets. Why? Because in the middle of it, I get distracted by a barking dog or something, and I never get back to the message. But this one is so easy. It's like, there's 4 ways you can register for this: mail, online, phone, or in person. And I only have to read the one that applies to me. So I'm a big, big fan of bulleted lists. There's a few rules that go with bulleted lists, and those are also included in the ebook. So if you go get that free ebook that I'm offering you, you'll see some more information on that in there. tables, I love tables. Tables are awesome. I use tables in email all the time. And the reason I do that in email is because I find that I send a mail, I take a lot of time to line everything up, like 2 columns or information the way I want it. Then I send it to them, and when they respond back, I can see that everything was so screwed up. It didn't look anything like what I thought it was going to look like. But if I use a table, it's always exactly where it's supposed to be in the columns. So tables, they help solve formatting problems in documents. They're a lot easier than using columns if you've ever tried to use columns. Use them in email to keep your formatting intact. Sometimes I use them in handouts just so that I can control where the borders go and the overall effect and the look of the document in the memo or the report. It's really good for breaking up long narrative and just giving the eye a rest. Tables are available in all of your word processing stuff, and even in PowerPoint and everything, I think they offer tables. So, take a few minutes to learn about tables and think about using those in things like email that you normally wouldn't think about. They really help to keep your text together and look good. And white space, I've talked about white space. Just, white space is our friend. Just make sure that you leave white space in your document. Give my brain a rest so that I believe it's possible to read your message. Don't crowd it all together, making me put it to the side and maybe never picking it up again. So white space is our friend for sure. Always spell check and grammar check. And there's a couple of examples on the screen. Instead of saying spell check, it says spell chuck. And instead of saying grammar check, it says grammar cheek. And if you run this through your spell checker, there's no problem. Everything would pass. So you have to be careful about that. Really make sure that your documents are professional and that you aren't doing, having those kind of errors. Because like someone said before, it just really takes your focus off of the document and makes you wonder about the person who wrote it, right? So be careful of that. On the screen, it says editing or proofreading is a critical part of writing. Use your automated spell and grammar check, remembering that they are not perfect for sure. One of the things I do sometimes is read backwards. I read the message backwards because that way I'm not reading what I thought I wrote. I'm reading one word at a time. And I put this sentence through my spell checker to see if it works, and it's working fine. Yeah, so I messed the sentence all up, and I run this through the spell checker every time, and everything says it's fine. But I used the wrong version of through, and I used put instead of put, and I used the wrong version of to and see and all of it, if you can see the screen, and it works just great, just fine. So just be really careful, because people get an impression of you, and they get an impression of your organization when you have those kind of errors in your documents. We've become more casual. We've slackened the rules, but not these kind of things. If there are misspelled words, the wrong use of words, if there's bad errors in it, it says to me that your company is not together or you're not together. Something's off. And we sure don't want to put that in the mind of our readers, right? That you're not that bright. You never went to school. You didn't listen to your 7th grade teacher. Oh, we don't want to do that, ever. So there's some general rules of etiquette that you've probably heard before. And I'll just use this to kind of summarize. Properly greet and sign off. No matter what kind of a message you're writing, you have to decide whether your reader needs a greeting. For email, generally, you always want to use some kind of a greeting, even if it's just hello, In letters, you have to consider how the salutation goes. Should you use their first name, their last name? It depends on whether you know them, right? It depends on what kind of a letter that you're writing. But a greeting is usually proper, some kind of greeting and a proper sign off, thank you, have a great day, something to properly sign off, because it conveys tone. Remember, the subject line, you got to watch that little subject line, because you got to entice me with that, especially if you have a customer who only reads the subject line. I better put something in there that's going to make you want to read it. And you have to be careful with that in email, because the wrong subject line can be taken as spam, and it can throw it into somebody's spam filter. So you got to be a little careful. If there's a due date, I'll usually put the due date in the subject line. Like this is due Friday. That'll be my subject. That grabs somebody's attention, right? Something else that grabs them is free food on Friday. But be careful, because that could be a spam thing. But if you say, meeting on Friday, free food. Hey, now that'll probably work. The other thing I see with the subject line is that people are writing messages that no longer relate to the subject. You know, they just keep that train of stuff going. So be conscious of that. If you're on a different subject, that's a different email. You know, at least change the subject line, which you can do in an email. So keep that meaningful. Professional and friendly, like I talked about. This little background on the slide is the email monster, I call him. He's a monster. You know, let's be professional and let's be friendly with our messages. We want them to be conversational, but still professional. This is business mail. Be concise, respond appropriately. Boy, this one trips me up sometimes because I can't respond as quickly as I get messages sometimes, you know? And I debate what to do because like just yesterday I got one from somebody who wants to talk to me about some work. And I just can't answer them right now. You know, I had sessions all day today and it's like, I don't want to ignore them. So I had to think about what to do. Do I just wait a couple of days and then respond to the whole thing? So instead, I sent a message that said, I am just booked solid tomorrow. Is it okay if I get back and give you some more information on this on Friday? And right away, I got a response. Yeah, that's fine. No hurry. So the person doesn't feel like I ignored them. They know I got the message. They know I'm going to get back to them. So respond appropriately. You know, if somebody needs something Friday and they're so plain in their subject line, need this by Friday, and you know you can't do it by Friday, don't sit there and wait until Monday and say, oops, you know, go ahead and fess up. I can't do this by Friday, but I can do this by Tuesday, right? Use your can do language. So respond appropriately. Be accurate. We talked about the whole thing with, you know, mistakes and typos and that. You got to be accurate, not just with, you know, your spelling and your punctuation and stuff, but also with your message. You know, make sure that you're not giving out false information or saying things that aren't true. You know, just be accurate in what you're writing, because once you write it down, it's forever and it can come back to get you. So make conscious decisions about what you write. Remember that you never know who else might read this document down the line. So be careful not to put confidential information. You know, nothing's confidential anymore. Just read the paper every day. Don't do that. You know, putting silly jokes or even dirty or inappropriate jokes or all of that stuff is just, you're just setting yourself up. You know, I shouldn't even have to say it, but just don't even go there. Make conscious decisions about what you're doing and resist that temptation. Resist that temptation to blow it off, to not worry about the spelling, to not worry about all these things we've been talking about, to not plan in advance, to not consider who your reader is, to not use visual clues. Resist the temptation. Would it be easier? Yeah. Are you going to get a good result? No. All right. So as I said in the beginning, we've got this in the chat box. The link is there for your 100 writing tips ebook that I compiled just for you guys, because there's so much more we could say about writing and we can't do it in the time allotted, but it's all there. And if you need any help, well, it's not all there, but there's 100 tips. So yeah. And if you need any help, you know, please get in touch with me. There's my contact information. Are there any questions I can answer in the few minutes that we have remaining?
Well, I just had something that happened to me, just an observation. You talked about somebody that would rather get a text versus an email. I had somebody ask me to send them an email and text me to let them know that I sent them an email.
But you know, at least you know how to get through to them.
I guess.
I mean, you know, it seems silly, but I'd rather than just tell. I'm glad he told me. You know, I'm not going to read your subject line because look how much time I'll spend on that. So at least you know. Yeah.
Does anyone else have a comment, a question, anything? You can unmute yourself and just talk to us. Renee says, great info. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thanks to
And-
everybody who kept their cameras on. I appreciate that. I like looking at you. Thank you.
Brett says, I just want to say it appears that I do many things wrong. I promise to slow down and be more intentional with communications. Okay, Brett, we'll talk later. Um, and John says, thank you for your time and the info. One thing I have noticed for I don't know how long is as far as grammar goes, the longer a word is used incorrectly, the more correct it becomes.
Yeah, I know. That's disturbing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I started off with. It's changing, it's changing. It's not the same old rules.
It's like nauseous versus nauseated.
Yeah.
And I mean, two very different things,
Mhm.
but they're used interchangeably for some reason now. So anyway.
And I still remember my seventh grade teacher, and sometimes I'm a little bit appalled at what's acceptable.
Yes.
But I wonder, Paula, in 50 years from now, maybe what we're doing is going to be completely obsolete. Maybe there'll be a whole new language where it's all abbreviations and weird words.
Yeah.
Who are we to say, right?
Well, I'll be texting when we speak to one another. Oh, no.
Yeah, well, we certainly don't write the way we did back in the 1800s, right? So,
That's very true. Yeah, the language is not as flowery.
right.
So, Patricia says, no questions, really great information. Thank you so much. And Janice says, my camera doesn't want to work for me today. Great information. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Great.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't know how we can thank you enough, Lorna. We appreciate you joining us. And I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Somebody
Okay.
else? Yeah, thank you.
Great. Let me share my screen, and here is list of some of our upcoming webinars. On next week, we have a busy week. Marcia Hudson will be with us on the 11th, getting started with Instagram for your business. And then we'll bring back our retail expert, Mark Wilson. He's already talking about Christmas. Yay! And then Lorna comes back and talks to us about how to improve outcomes by giving constructive feedback. Who doesn't need that? Oh, and the following week, Marcia's back, growing a profitable email list from ground zero. And then we have a new presenter, Jamie Ellithorpe, to talk about the success mindset that will grow your business. There's more and more coming after that. I just ran out of room on the slide. So you can register for any of these webinars by going to our website, www.sbdc.nctc.edu. And you can also get our contact information. You can schedule an appointment with an advisor, and you can find a lot of extra resources that we have out there for small business owners. We'd like to thank our benefactors, the Small Business Administration, the State of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College. Through their grants, we are able to bring information such as this to you at no cost. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the 11th to hear about Instagram. So thank you all. Have enjoyed the rest of your day, and I'm going to end the webinar now. So see you next time.